Hey guys, so this is going to be my big analysis video on the upcoming changes in the Midnight expansion for Devastation. I will say beforehand that our Apex talents are not available right now. They will be coming in an available build in the future, so I will have a video out for them whenever that time comes. So let's get into it. So the very first thing that I can say is certain spells that we have are now removed, namely Shattering Star and Firestorm and Engulf. Engulf and Shattering Star are probably the biggest ones. Engulf obviously specifically for Flameshaper, but Shattering Star for Devastation overall. That is a really big gameplay change, although it didn't really change anything rotationally. The aspect of just having it in general was definitely nice. And especially with the fact that it gave us Essence Burst, that is just now gone. So, as I said, Apex Talents will be available in the future. We'll make a video on that. Let's go over the new talents. So we're actually going to be going over Devastation first, and then we'll start going over the individual hero talents and hero trees. So new talent, Star Salvo. Increases Shattering Star damage by 35%. Shattering Star or Shattering Stars are now exhaled at all of your Eternity Surge targets. Honestly, really nice, and it makes casting Eternity Surge above rank 1 more meaningful. New talent, Azure Sweep. Eternity Surge upgrades your next Azure Strike to Azure Sweep, damaging all nearby enemies and dealing 75% additional damage. Now, there was a change when it comes to Azure Strike damage being increased by 50%. However, I don't think that is enough. I actually think that needs to be drastically buffed in pretty much either way. You either want to make it more meaningful by the damage itself, whether it be through Azure Strike or Azure Sweep, or add additional effects to it, or outright pretty much like change it to something entirely different. Now, when it comes to whether we would take this or not, with its current level and just seeing the number of it and seeing how much it was actually doing in game, I really don't think we'll actually be taking this talent at all, so it'll be another dead talent. Second, Exhale. Damage, or I won't say damage. Deep Breath deals 20% increased damage and can be cast again within 18 seconds of being used. Recall will be available after the second cast if talented. The increase for Deep Breath, I believe, was actually added to this talent. I could be wrong, but you being able to cast it again within 18 seconds is actually really massive for both hero trees. When it comes to the talent that increases Essence ability damage by casting this, you being able to cast it and actually it having like an 18-second duration instead of something like, oh, you can only cast it like 5 or 7 seconds afterwards. It being that 18 seconds is actually really big. I don't think you'd actually take it for Flameshaper, but I think you will for sure take it for Scalecommander. This is really big, so this change is very much welcomed. Shattering Star has been redesigned as a passive called Shattering Stars. Eternity Surge releases a Shattering Star at your target that deals 50% more damage per power level reached. So basically what I said before, it's just more of an incentive to uprank Eternity Surge just so that Shattering Stars do more damage and also just hit more things in general. When it comes to single target, I guess it really depends on the final numbers and whether or not it's still meaningful to uprank Eternity Surge all the way, or you still cast it at rank 1. It just really depends on what it is in the future. And then Honed Aggression has been redesigned, increases critical strike chance of your spells by 2 to 4%, so 2 talent node. Very welcomed, more crit, more fun. Engulfing Blaze has been redesigned, now increases the damage of Living Flame by 10% and reduces its cast time by 0.3%. Another welcome change, pretty much Living Flame is something that you cast non-stop, especially now. And obviously just having a lower cast time on it means we have more time to cast other spells, so that's really awesome. Fire damage increased by 20%, very welcome change as well. Although Pyre is getting to the point where it's actually hitting really hard. It's #1 in every single dungeon in terms of spells. Well, obviously outside of Engulf in some aspects, unless it's like a really big like AoE dungeon. Pyre's usually ahead regardless. But it's getting to the point where I'm a little worried it might be a little overpowered. But with the other buttons and other passives either being redesigned or removed, it might fix it. Who knows? Well, it's just we'll have to see. And then Charge Blast increases the damage of Pyre by 2% per stack instead of 5. This is actually a really massive nerf for Scalecommander. This is actually one of the things that I was a little worried about, but I kind of see why they would maybe do it, considering the fact that if I see it as how it works, the Shattering Stars, whenever they hit all Eternity Surge targets, will that also included into like the blue stacking damage? And if so, you would have this more or less permanently up. So it's both awesome to see that it would probably work for this, but it's also sad to see that it's being nerfed. So it's borderline wondering, will we have another season where Flameshaper is basically being run in all seasons forward and plus? Feed the Flames now activates after 6 pyres instead of 9. Very much a welcome change. I actually was not, I was a really big hater against this being 9 targets, so seeing it be 6 is awesome. And then Arcane Intensity now increases damage of Azure Shook as well. Sure. Eternity Spin has been changed, so it only affects Eternity Surge, obviously because Shattering Star is now a passive. And then several talents have been changed in the position of the tree. I might put that into a video, I might not. It's pretty much elsewhere, and you can also just see it in Wowhead as well. And then, as I said, certain spells have been removed, and then obviously certain passives with those spells have also been removed. So Iris has been removed, and then Firestorm, Dense Energy, Arcane Vigor with the Shattering Star getting Essence Burst, and then Snapfire has also been removed. Now, when it comes to the class change for, where is it at? For Flameshaper, actually we'll go over that because we saw this as well. So Unravel has actually been changed as well. It's also a passive that goes off of Fire Breath. And Fire Breath consumes absorbed shields from enemies, dealing additional X amount of damage to them. And then Azure Strike dealing 50% more. And then Leaping Flames now changes its spell icon when active for Living Flames. So it's kind of like a dynamic spell icon. So really nice to see that it's there for Dev. When it comes to Devastation, though, for the hero trees, as I said before, Engulf has been removed, and it's now been replaced by a talent that gives an extra charge to Fire Breath. Very much welcomed, however, there are certain aspects about it that I do have questions involving. And then potential feedback on how I guess they would work, but it really depends on how it would really go about actually working in the first place. Now, when it comes to Consume Flame, this is actually still there. It's actually going to go off of Disintegrate and Pyre now instead of just Engulf. As I said before, Engulf is being removed. So Disintegrate will consume 0.6 seconds of Fire Breath from enemies it damages, detonating it for 150% of the amount consumed, and then for Pyre it's 3 seconds for the same amount. Now, it definitely does mean that Consume Flame is basically going to be constantly consuming, and it brings the question, will we be in a world where we have to hold at a charge of Fire Breath, or can we send them both back to back? Obviously, it really depends on how it works. I really don't know if there will be a heavy diminishing return on casting them both at the same time, or if we can see a world where they might just have an actual overlapping stack mechanic, so it applies 2 stacks of Fire Breath instead of just increasing the duration of it. Who knows, but some things to kind of think about as well. Now, when it comes to the hero trees, we'll actually go over Flameshaper first, and then we'll go after Scalecommander next. So for Flameshaper, Ashes in Motion, Talent, Fire Breath's cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds. This is basically the same that we had before, it's just a talent name change, so it's already been decreased by X amount of seconds. Fire Breath's damage over time lasts 4 seconds longer. Sure. And then Essence Well. Fire Breath have, like, whenever you cast Fire Breath, it has a 50% chance to generate Essence Burst. Now, this is, I guess, a replacement for Arcane Vigor when it comes to casting Shattering Star and granting the Essence Burst. I I would like to see this redesigned a little bit, but I actually have no idea if redesigning it and then the way that I'm about to say is actually a good thing. It would more be of a testing method to see if it would actually be good and whether it would play nice. But I would like to see fire buffs damage sectioned into 4 different slots, with each slot having that extra chance of generating Essence Burst. I would definitely not want it to be where we are flooded with Essence Burst, but I would like to have a little bit more than we are now, considering the fact that Shattering Star is also removed. Or you could also just have 3 sections into Firestorm as well. It just depends on what would work and especially what would like play nice and stuff. And then new talent Twin Flame. This is actually entirely new. It's basically Essence Bomb almost, except it doesn't do as much AoE. It only targets. It obviously targets far less. By itself, it is actually a single target spell. So consuming Essence Burst fires a Twin Flame, damaging your target for X amount of damage. And then with the talent below it, Fire Torrent, Twin Flame bounces up to 2 additional targets, so it'll hit 3 targets in total. And from what I've seen in testing, this actually does a decent amount of damage, so honestly really nice. And then Burning Legionnaire has been redesigned. Fire Breath reaches its maximum power level 20% faster. And then Engulf, Flame Siphon, and Red Hot have also been removed. And then for Scalecommander, Command Squadron, we're basically getting our Mana Forge Omega tier set baked into the hero tree through these 2 changes right here. Command Squadron, while flying during Deep Breath, you are assisted by a squadron of Drag-Through who assault enemies with fire, dealing fire damage to number enemies up to 8 times. Now, the feedback that I do want to give about this is currently you have to cast Deep Breath and wait out a little bit of its duration for it to cast all of its pyres. One thing that I would like to see is if we want to cast Deep Breath and cancel it immediately afterwards just to apply the dot to enough enemies, let's just say it's like single target. I would like to see a world where if we cancel it early and there's not enough time for them to get, let's just say it casts 4 pyres and then we top it. I would like it to see it cast the 4 remaining pyres instantly. Or just make it constantly apply, or not constantly, I would say have them cast it really quickly, like at the very beginning of the cast. Or make it meaningful for us to stay in Deep Breath a little bit longer. But if it's going to be the exact same as it works right now, like the exact same way, have them cast it immediately afterwards if we have to stop it early for whatever reason. And then Concentrated Power Mass Disintegrate strikes 1 additional target. 1 less than the tier set, but as I said, it's still baked in, so it's 4 targets being hit by each Mass Disintegrate instead of just 3. So honestly, really nice. Essence abilities deal 15% increased damage. I would actually like to see this be 25% or even more with an additional passive added to it, or it changed entirely. I don't feel that with the current power that Flameshaper has, with the amount of AoE that it will have, I feel as though that this is actually going to be fairly weak, and it's going to be another season where playing Scalecommander and keys is going to hinder your groups. And then Slipstream now grants a charge of hover instead of granting full charges. I actually want to say that this was originally intended to work this way. However, with the fact that we take the additional hover charge in the Evoker tree, this is probably an unintended bug that just became a feature outright or was just never fixed. But I'm honestly very welcome to this working the way it's intended now. And then when it comes to the dynamic spell icons, Disintegrate also changes to Mass Disintegrate while you have it active. Honestly, very nice. So all in all, I do have a lot of feedback. However, at the moment, I would still have to like think of like how to properly word it. Other than 2 main things that I would like to see, I would like to see more power being put into Scalecommander, either increasing the Essence ability damage through Refined Essence, or making it so that Mass Disintegrate hits 2 additional targets instead of 1, so it hits 5 in total. And I would also like to see there being like no diminishing way for you having to cancel Deep Breath early for whatever reason. And then when it comes to Flameshaper, I would like to see there to be a way for us to gain a little bit more essence first than we do now, but not so much as it was in Season 2 when we were absolutely flooded with it. And then when it comes to I would say Azure Sweep, was it that called? Yeah. I would like the power behind that to be drastically increased as well. Because as of right now, I don't think we would actually press it. It's pretty much going to become a dead talent right off the gate. So anyways, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Any changes you would like to see as well, obviously. Leave them down, give any feedback you can, and in the future, as I said, I will be creating update videos on this, and pretty much just going over anything else that I want to put my thought into. And then, of course, whenever the Apex Talents comes out, I will, of course, make a video on that as well. So yeah, thanks for watching.